Everybody, and welcome to my video today, which is a travel review from my recent trip to Russia. So if you've been watching my videos, you'll have seen that my last number of videos, I'm not sure if it's the last 5 or 6 videos, were from my recent trip to Russia. Apart from one I think I flew in the middle, which was about the cheapest flight that I took for 2 pence to Bremen some years ago. But anyway, I went to Russia during the World Cup. I went there for the World Cup. I went to watch a match, Panama versus Tunisia in Saransk. And to get there, I flew from Shymkent in Kazakhstan, which is where I live, to Moscow Vnukovo Airport, obviously in Russia, the capital of Russia. I flew on SCAT Airlines. That flight from Shymkent to Moscow is not. I didn't film it, but I wish I had. The reason I didn't film it is because I was flying back on the same route, and I was only planning on filming one of them. But had I known that my outward flight and my return flight were going to be operated by different aircraft types, then I would have filmed both. Because the flight going, I flew on a Boeing 737-700, and it's the only one of those planes that SCAT Airlines has in their fleet. It's pretty unique because it was a modern plane. Whenever you fly in SCAT, you get these really old, worn-out planes. So it was a real surprise to be on a nice modern aircraft on SCAT. Something pretty unique. I'm not going to talk too much about that flight because it wasn't filmed. It was a little bit late. It was a little bit late leaving Shymkent, but the flight was fine. Got to Moscow late. But anyway, from Moscow, Vnukovo Airport, I was looking forward to taking the train, the special airport train, from the airport to the centre of Moscow. Reason being was because I knew it was going to be a double-decker train. And I very, very rarely get to travel on double-decker trains. Obviously, originally from the UK, no double-decker trains in the UK. I live in Kazakhstan. As far as I'm aware, there's no double-decker trains in Kazakhstan. I think the last time I went on a double-decker train was in Belgium. I think from Antwerp to Brussels, perhaps. That was many years ago. I don't know, probably in my teens back then. So yeah, I was really looking forward to that. And yeah, it didn't disappoint. It was a nice, modern Russian double-decker train. Pretty empty because it was a late flight that I came off on. And I think it was like the second last train of the day or something. And yeah, I think it was about a half-hour journey, roughly, 35 minutes maybe, to the centre of Moscow. That video has been uploaded, and that's actually my most popular video for my Russian trip for some reason. That one really took off. The following day, I took another airport train, this time to Sheremetyevo Airport in Moscow. Because there's 3 main airports in Moscow: Vnukovo, Sheremetyevo and Domodedovo. The reason I went to Sheremetyevo the following day was to pick up my mum, who was flying in from London into Shymkent. And that train wasn't a double-decker. Again, I knew that. I'd already kind of researched it. That was how can I say, just a normal single-decker train. It was very busy, that one. It's the same price, doesn't matter to which airport you go to or from. It's I think it was 500 rubles, if I remember correctly. It is cheaper if you book it online, which I didn't do. But yeah, that journey again was alright. Takes the same amount of time, about 35 minutes. It's quite interesting. It doesn't matter which of the 3 airports you go to on this special, what's it called, Aero Express train, whether it's Vnukovo, Sheremetyevo or Domodedovo. It costs the same price, 500 rubles, and it takes the same amount of time, even though all the airports are in completely different directions. So that was fine. Train left bang on time, arrived early, as did the train the previous day. So far, so good with Russian transport. So the only problem was my Kazakh airline, SCAT, which is Kazakhstan's second airline after Air Astana. As I said, that flight was late. Can't blame that on Russia though. Then, after picking my mum up at the airport, we took the train back to the centre, which I didn't film. It was pointless. I'd already filmed the outward journey to the airport, but that journey was fine. Everything was on time. And then in the evening, we took the night train, which video you can see on my channel, from Moscow. Can't remember the name of the terminus station, but from Moscow to Saransk, which I think it was about 10 hours, 10 and a half hours, something like that. And we went in first class. What that meant was that we got it was like a, what do you call it, like a berth for 2 people. So for me and my mum. And I knew that it included food. I think when I booked it, it included a 3-course meal, but I didn't hold up much hope for it. I didn't know what they were going to serve. So before we got on the train, went to Burger King, for a burger, just in case the food was no good. And it was lucky I did that, because the food was shocking. It was a nice train, a nice carriage that we were in. It was very good service. You could press a button inside your compartment, and one of the train ladies, kind of like the equivalent of a stewardess, like you'd get on a plane, would come to your compartment. It was decent. There was a locker, which I didn't use. The bed was comfortable. I was a bit disappointed with the TV. I thought it was going to be like a normal TV where you could watch loads of channels, but it was just like 5 channels, and it wasn't like proper TV. It was like just, I don't know, what do you call it, like videos, not videos, but it wasn't live TV, if you see what I mean. It was just things films and stuff. So I didn't bother with that. But yeah, going back to the food was shocking. The choice in the menu wasn't very good anyway. I'm a very fussy eater. There's a lot of things I don't like. Probably more things I don't like than I do like. For starter, I had something that wasn't very nice. The main course was shocking. Some pork and what was it? I can't remember. If you look at the video, you'll see what it was. But it was no good. The dessert was iffy. Best thing was the breakfast in the following morning, pancakes. That was pretty decent. You got tea as well. So it's a really good service. Just the food was really bad. It was like aeroplane food, and I don't really like aeroplane food. So that was disappointing. But the journey itself to Penza was fine. The train left bang on time, and it arrived in Penza bang on time as well. So yeah, really impressed with Russian trains up to that point. Yeah, it was a good journey. Got a bit of sleep in. And when we arrived in Penza, we were in the Saransk. We had a few hours because it was very early in the morning. It was like 7 in the morning we arrived. we had to go and pick up our football tickets. This was the Tuesday, the game was on the Thursday. So we picked those up, had lunch in Saransk, and then we took a train from Saransk in the afternoon to Penza, which is, from what I remember, 2 hours and 50 minutes journey that was. It's about 150 kilometers. And the train we got is a super long distance train. It came all the way from Novosibirsk in Siberia and was going to Adler, which is Sochi, in the far southwest of Russia. And I think it's a 5-day journey in total, and we were just doing, imagine that, a 5-day train journey, and we're just on the train for 2 hours and 50 minutes, and it was just one stop. we literally got on the train and got off at the next stop, and during that time I slept on the train, because it's a sleeper train. They come round with not blankets, but your sheets, and I just had to lay down, made the bed, and slept for a couple of hours, which I really needed. It was useful. So yeah, that was decent. That journey. The train was a lot more basic, which again, if you watch my video from Saransk to Penza, you'll see that. But it was good just to get a few hours kip there. We arrived in Penza, spent a few days there. Oh, before I say that, the train again, even though it would come all the way from Siberia, it got into Saransk early, and then got into Penza on time as well. So fantastic. And 2 days later, it was the day of the match on the Thursday. We had to go back to Saransk, which is 150 kilometers. This time I rented a car. Again, you can see that video. I rented a Russian car, a Lada Granta, from Penza to Saransk. The journey was fine. Got stopped by the police. Hadn't done anything wrong. It was just a random check because of the World Cup. But that was fine. The car wasn't particularly good. It was a bit of an, even though it was only 2013 when the car was released, it was battered and had the window was cracked. The handbrake didn't work properly. It was very noisy. But what do you expect as a Russian car? If only the Russian cars were as good as the Russian trains. But anyway, the journey to Saransk was good in the car. Coming back was a lot more challenging, because it was in the dark, and secondly, my phone was out of battery, and I had to find my way back to Penza, which was a little bit tricky, navigating my way out of Saransk to find the right road to Penza. Once I'm on the road, it's fine. I know my way. Just go straight, basically, and then left. But then I had a problem when I got to Penza. I didn't know how to find my apartment, which was like in a kind of almost like suburb. I don't know the city very well, so that was a bit of a challenge, finding my apartment. Got there in the end. So yeah, everything was fine. A bit stressful coming back, but not too bad. And then after that, was it the Friday night, I think it was, we took the train from Penza to Moscow. Very similar journey to the Moscow to Saransk journey, except this takes a few hours longer. I think the distance is a little bit further, and I think it stops at some stations for a longer period of time. It was the exact same type of train I booked, the same carriage, and unfortunately the same menu with the food. This time I opted for some vegetarian dish because the pork was terrible. I think it was some mushroom risotto. Unfortunately, that was even worse. It wasn't cooked properly, or wasn't heated up properly, and it was like icy in the middle. I didn't like it anyway. Like even if it had been heated up properly, I still wouldn't have really liked it. So I didn't even bother getting them to reheat it. Just didn't eat it at all. But again, I knew that the food was going to be bad, so I went to McDonald's in Penza before getting on the train. But apart from the food, the journey was absolutely fine. We left bang on time. We arrived in Moscow bang on time. I just can't fault the Russian trains system at all. I thought it was absolutely magnificent. Very efficient. Now I don't know if that's because of the World Cup, they were making sure everything was running smoothly, or whether it's normally like that. But I'll tell you what, I'm very, very impressed with the Russian trains. Yeah. What else can I say before I talk about my return journey? You got the buses in public transport in Russia. I like, personally. You got a mix of trolley buses. It depends which city you're in. But like in Penza, where we spent most of our time, you had trolley buses. Like they call them marshrutkas, which are like mini buses. They're a bit awkward if you're not familiar with the Russian language. But yeah, I liked it. I found my way around the city easily on public transport. In Moscow, you can use a card. It's called a Troika card, similar to the Oyster card in London, where you top it up and you just touch in. That's also pretty cool, easy to use. It's a public transport as well. To be honest, I'm a big fan of in Russia, within the cities. And then finally, the following day, when Mum left to Shymkent in a taxi and flew back to London, I took the train, again the Airport Express train, to back to Vnukovo Airport. Again, the train was fine, bang on time, no problems, and flew back to Shymkent, which that video you can see. It's my last video that I put up last week. That flight was delayed. Surprise, surprise, on Scat Airlines, of course. It was firstly delayed. I got told, like I think a day in advance, that my flight had been put back, scheduled to like 50 minutes later. So I guess that's not really a delay, is it? Because it's officially been put back. But Scat do that a lot. They've done that to me before. But then that new scheduled flight time was also delayed once I got to the airport. And we took off really late. I don't know, was it an hour and a half late or something like that? No announcement, didn't know why the plane was late. But it was. The plane itself was disappointing because I came on this new plane, the 737-700, I kind of expected that to be taking me back to Shymkent as well, but it wasn't. It was the Boeing 737-500, a very old plane. Yeah, not particularly nice. It was a bit worn out. The food was terrible. Again, you can see that on my last video. I didn't touch it. It was some kind of chicken, but like I said, I'm a fussy eater. I didn't like the look of it. Didn't like the salad. Didn't like anything. I just went hungry. I'd rather go hungry than eat that stuff. On the flight going, I actually quite enjoyed the food. I remember the flight going, they came around, they were like, do you want chicken or something else? Chicken or beef or chicken or lamb? I can't remember what it was. I went for the chicken. But I said to the stewardess, like in Russian, I said, okay, chicken with what? Because I'm a fussy eater. If it's with some kind of cream sauce or cheese or anything, I'm not going to touch it. If it's a tomato-based sauce, fine. Happy days. But she was a bit rude and said, I don't know. I've never eaten it. I haven't tried it. So I just had to gamble, just take it and hope for the best. and it was fine. It was with some vegetables, not really much of a sauce. And I think it was with pasta as well. That was also not in a sauce. So yeah, it was decent. It's quite a small portion, but coming back, it was just no good. That was horrible. I think it would have been. I didn't touch it. But yeah, I can criticise Scat all I want, but the main thing is they get me from A to B and back to A safely without any safety issues. So that everything was fine. Thank you, Scat, for your service. Just please try to improve your punctuality. So yeah, overall, not particularly impressed with Scat. Both planes were late, there and back. But with the Russian general transport system, their trains, their buses and the trolley buses and the metro in Moscow, very good. The marshrutkas, everything was absolutely fine. Yeah, really enjoyed my trip to Russia. People were great. Again, is it because it was the World Cup? I don't think so. Russia's got a bad name in the West. But look, I've got nothing bad to say about Russia, Russian people, only good things to say, in all honesty. My mum enjoyed it too. It was her first time in Russia. I think she was very impressed with everything there. Got a lot of time for Russia, and I hope to be back there very shortly. But whether I will or not, that's well, we'll see. So guys, thank you for watching my video. Next week I'm going to do the same type of video, a review about my trip to Russia, but in Russian, aimed obviously at Russian speakers, to see what they think of, well, just so that they know what I think of their country, assuming they're going to be Russian citizens. But yeah, it's for anybody who speaks Russian, basically. You can be English, German, Ghanaian, whatever. If you speak Russian, then you might enjoy my video next week. Good night. Goodbye.